he realized that Black people were being ignored, basically. And when they were mentioned, it was in a bad light or as inferior.
Because we were a people who have always been looked down on. And this is something that we would use to bring ourselves up now. But as I look back over the years and see where it has brought us, I see more of a disconnect.
There was like a sentence or two, like they were slaves, and then Abraham Lincoln was this great emancipator. So there was a lot of pseudo history for us. I identify as a child of the Most High. And I do know that I am a mother of Israel. And I do know that I am in America and I am an American. I'm an American African.
Well, I think when it comes to us knowing who we are, there is this level of keeping things under wraps, just to keep things like they are. Don't mess with the harness. Don't kick it. It's almost like you just want us to stay in a place and not know who we really are. People can decide what they want to be. They can make that decision and say, hey, I want to be this or that. So now you have all this clumped together. It's almost like it is just piled up on top. And we are to lose our identity in the process of all that. We know who we are. And we know that we have an enemy. And that enemy is against God's image bearers. We are God's image bearers.
We are still being killed. We are a target.
All right, everybody, friends and family, welcome to the show. This is Isika with Msafiri Podcast. And today I'm joined by two amazing ladies on the show. We will be talking about the Black History Month and more detail to come. I want to start off by having them introduce themselves, maybe their names and anything that they want to say about themselves.
Hi, my name is Rukiya Gathungu, and I am here to talk about Black history.
Karibu sana.
And my name is Regina Ruth, and I'm happy to be here to talk about Black history. So one of the questions that you had asked was, how did Black history start?
Yes.
And there was a scholar named Carter G. Woodson. He was a doctor, and he graduated from Harvard. And he was a historian. He was studying history, and his parents were former slaves. And when he started studying history, he realized that Black people were being ignored, basically. And when they were mentioned, it was in a bad light or as inferior. And so he started a couple of organizations. And at that time, too, he also began what was called Black History Week. It was just 1 week long. And then it developed into a whole month, which was the month of February, which was 28 days. And that month of February was significant in a lot of other ways too, historically, is why I believe that he had chose that month. But so that's how it was started.
So it was actually started by American African. That's good. And I think it's a good detail to highlight. And do you have anything to add, Rukiya?
Actually, that's it. Carter G. Woodson.
Yeah. And then it started out with 1 week, but now we celebrate it for a whole month of February.
Yes.
Personally, I wouldn't say that is a celebration that I've celebrated personally, but I have in different institutions that when I was in college, that you'll get mentioned, and maybe we'll have like speakers come in and speak. And then I moved to Grand Rapids. Now, organization like Glimpse of Africa celebrate the same holiday. And so I was just curious, how has been your experience and what are your beliefs about the Black History Month? And I know we're discussing this in April. This conversation is way overdue, but it's never bad timing. But yeah.
I think for me, my experience with celebrating Black history has been some of like kind of a love kind of a thing and then a distant kind of a thing, because just the whole of the idea of where it has come from, and knowing that it has been something that we need as a community to celebrate ourselves, to celebrate our history, to celebrate who we are, because we were a people who have always been looked down on. And this is something that we would use to bring ourselves up now. But as I look back over the years and see where it has brought us, I see more of a disconnect rather than something that really brings us together. And the disconnect, I think, is more of learning about my history, learning about who I am. It almost seems like it's just something you put over. It's like a wound that you put a Band-Aid over. So it hasn't brought that joy like in college. It was something we celebrated. We had speakers that came from all over. We had Dr. Ben. We had Stokely Carmichael, Kwame Tu would come and speak. And it was just this camaraderie of us coming together. But like I said, as history progresses, and we are the only people that are looked at as a skin color, like, why isn't it other people that are looked at the color of their skin, Black history? Whereas when you look at Asians, you don't think of them as being yellow people. Oh, and you see you white people, they're okay. But when you say white people, they still know that either they're Dutch, they're Irish, they're French, Italian, they know their history. Whereas when it comes to the people here, and now they want to call us people of color and not even call us the Black, but Negro is a better term because I know that it has some roots. I know that where it comes from. But when I look at the totality of it, I know for myself that I'm Hebrew. This is who I am. This is who our people are. This is who is talked about in our Bible. It's us. And we have all the evidence that points to that. So when I think of Black history, I think of Hebrew. We are the Hebrews that have come over. So if you want to bring any changes, you say celebrating the Hebrews who are now awakened to who we are.
Yes, and I agree. I think even beforehand, you mentioned about when you celebrate, it's like just putting a bed into a, it's really not healing, wanting to be healed. I guess before we progress more, did you want to add anything? Because there's a conversation I had with Regina beforehand, and it's really touches into that. But maybe before we progress, and maybe dig deep into that about the thing, because I'm interested in that area. Do you have anything to add, Regina?
Just add that for me, growing up with Black history, it wasn't really celebrated in the circles that I was in much. And a lot of the history I am still learning. And as I became an adult, I began to learn more and more about what our people did, what our ancestors, how they even suffered. They didn't even really teach us in the American schools. There was like a sentence or two, like they were slaves, and then Abraham Lincoln was this great emancipator. So there was a lot of pseudo history for us. And yeah, so I do celebrate it. I try to do it to the best of my ability. But to tell you the truth, I'm in the camp where I'm still searching. In my identity, I identify as a child of the Most High. And I do know that I am a mother of Israel. And I do know that I am in America and I am an American. I'm an American African, but I know that is only part of my identity. That is only my earthly identity. And so I truly am working more to stay focused on my eternal identity. And that is a child of the Most High, a brother of Yeshua, Jesus Christ. He is my elder brother. And I am a part of that family. I am also, as she was saying, part of that tribe.
It looks like this labeling of the Black people. Is this, do you think, is part of a system of reminding who like Black people used to be, like slaves? Could it be part of like oppression, or just what do you think it is? This is the case.
Well, I think when it comes to us knowing who we are, there is this level of keeping things under wraps, just to keep things like they are. Don't mess with the harness. Don't kick it. It's almost like you just want us to stay in a place and not know who we really are. I see through all of the things that have been laid up, like when we go back to the civil rights, and even as far back as when Lincoln, quote unquote, freed the slaves, we see all of these things put into play, look like they were to elevate us, but they were really to just put us all in a group and lump us together to bring what we have today. Lumping us all up together, and now you pick it apart and say, you can't have this organization, you can't have these rights without having the rights of these other people over here. So we've been clumped together, not just people who are Black, but we've now been clumped together with people with other sexual orientations. And now it's almost like it just grew into this thing that's, I can't change the color of my skin. People can decide what they want to be. They can make that decision and say, hey, I want to be this or that. So now you have all this clumped together. It's almost like it is just piled up on top. And we are to lose our identity in the process of all that, just so we won't recognize who we really are. So it's just like pulling teeth.
Yes.
How do we continue to recognize who we are if we have all these things that are stacking up against us?
So it's like what I'm hearing is that it's like there's an agenda to deny the African Americans. And you're okay me using American Africans? Oh, which one do you prefer? I'm African. I think I'm African because I'm not a citizen yet.
Okay, so yeah, you would be African.
Yes.
But African Americans are people who have moved from the continent of Africa and now live in America.
In America, yes.
I'm Hebrew.
So I'll call you Hebrew. And Regina, you told me you're okay with...
I am a foundational Black American. That's
Okay.
how I identify.
For the sake of this interview, so I don't get confused in the process.
I told you.
I'll try to
This is
remember.
Rukiya Hebrew.
Yes. I love it.
She's our sister.
So from what Rukiya said, part of what I picked up is there's an identity to deny her or the people who are once slaves to be denied the opportunity to rediscover who they originally were.
I definitely agree with that. However, whatever angle that you look at it in, and that not only are we have been lied to and deceived, and they even had a slave Bible. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
They had a slave Bible that they gave us. And that book, I showed you that book, The Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. And I think that's very telling of how they wanted to keep us in the dark. They wanted to keep us sick. They emasculated our men. They put everything out of order. And I would really like to bring Christianity into this, because
Please.
we all put ourselves under that umbrella. And they corrupted Christianity, is what the Europeans did. That is just a fact.
It's been like that even in Africa. I think it's the same. It's really corrupted.
It was very corrupted. And we had to really learn and have the Most High, Yah, reveal himself to us personally. And that is what he did. He did, and that is what he is continually doing, revealing himself to us. And so as far as the oppression, yes, that oppression continues. And that's what that post-traumatic slave syndrome book is about. It's about the generational trauma and that has went on from generation to generation. It talks about things like the medical system that we live in and how there is an agenda, and that agenda has been to eliminate us. That agenda, Planned Parenthood, okay? I'm not sure if you know the history of Margaret Sanger, but that whole institution, the target was for brown babies, specifically Black babies. And they have succeeded a lot in as far as their elimination. We have been decimated, okay? We there is a whole mass incarceration of our men, okay, that is big enough to be a country.
Wow.
All the men that are now in the prison right now, it's big enough The population is a small country. Okay. And that is basically the new Jim Crow, that mass incarceration. And that continues. And people will say, oh, you're being paranoid. White people go to prison. White people die and stuff too. But people need to understand that we are still being slaughtered in the streets. We are still being killed. We are a target. Yes, I truly believe that.
Yes. When I was coming here, and not to hijack your point, but I'm just trying to bring your point you're bringing about the number of Black men in prison. The person who was my host family, which is actually a white family, he told me, Iska, just so you know, like America is a different place. And you're a Black person, and I am not. But I want to tell you the majority of the people in prison are Black men. And I just want you to be aware that the streets are not fair. And so just be careful. And it was just blank like that. And I appreciate it to know, like, that's how it is. Like, there's a particular group that is targeted. And unfortunately, I'll fall into that category.
It's a good friend.
Yeah. Okay, you also brought something about being grouped together. Not only like now as the people of Hebrew, but also Hebrew people. I would say that the correct English. But also you mentioned something about like gay or LGBTQ. Can you expound a little bit on that? And what is maybe you can expand a little bit on that. Curious.
Yes, with the civil rights movement, there were some laws put into place so that we wouldn't be discriminated against as a people. And it just expounded. Then we added on to the women's rights. And then from the women's right, it became gay rights. And then you just keep threading things in. Now we have someone in power now saying that, hey, we're coming against these things. But there are only two sexes. And we get that. But now when you put everything in one dish, and you can't now just pull those things apart, they all together. So now you have to dismantle the whole entire thing for it to be. Yes. And that's what we see, that this is something that it shouldn't be a surprise to us. This is something they put into plan and to practice a long time ago because they knew such a time as this that they could just dismantle it and walk away. And the bigger picture is that we have to realize that it's not just even against us. It's against people because we got too many people in the world, right?
Yes.
So because we have too many people in the world, we're not just targeting just you who look like us. We're targeting people.
Yes.
And it's worldwide. And now this is where I feel like Christianity now has its platform, because now we look at the whole of it and it's, okay, now God is speaking. He's speaking to all of us saying, hey, yes, my people came on the scene. I came through my people. I let the world know who I am through my people because I wanted my name to be proclaimed over all the earth. And he used the Hebrews to do that. So now you have Christianity come on the scene, and it was hijacked. It was hijacked literally by the Greeks, by
the Romans.
Yes. So now they put a spin on it, and they totally want to leave out the Hebrews who God gave the laws to. And you cannot have a foundation without the Hebrews. You just can't.
You cannot, yeah.
And you see now we can even get into the three sons of Noah. We have Japhite, we have who we rarely hear anything about, but we know he's for the European. Those are his people. We have Ham. We know Ham, Cush, his sons, Cush. We know that's the African nation. And then we have Shem. We know Shem is the father of the Hebrews. We know that. And not only that, but Shem, when you go to Abraham, we know Abraham had two sons. He had Isaac and Ishmael. Ishmael is the father of the Arabs. Isaac has two sons, Jacob and Esau. Now we have Jacob, who's the father of the Hebrews. So just even looking at our heritage and looking down our bloodline, we see who we are. We know who we are. And we know that we have an enemy. And that enemy is against God's image bearers. We are God's image bearers. We as a people. And a lot of the division that has been brought, it has been brought to bring division among all people. And as a result of our rebellion as Hebrew people, we see the results of our rebellion and where it has brought us to. These aren't things that have happened to us that God didn't say they weren't going to happen. He said that we'll be scattered abroad over all the nations, that he would scatter us. He said that wives will be taken. He said that our babies will be sold. This is right here in the word. So this isn't something that we can look back and be like, why? We know why, because we gave ourselves over to idolatry. He said, when you go into your new land, you're not to be like the people that are there. I brought you there so that you can teach them your ways, not so you can go and start doing the things. He said to tear down their high places, tear down their idols. But what we do, we didn't do that.
Yeah.
So this is where we are now, fast forwarding. We got so many things up against us, but as a people, we come together and we begin to know who we are, and we begin to expand upon being people rather than being this shade or that shade, or from this place or this place. And I think the people who are in most denial really are our European friends, because they have been given the white privilege. So they feel like some of them feel like they have power, not all of them, but some of them feel like they have power and they want to exercise that. But really, at the end of the day, we're God's people, regardless of where we've come from. And we have one enemy, and that one enemy is Satan. But we forget all about that, and we just want to fight amongst each other and bring the discord, when the discord is really the enemy. That we don't fight against flesh and blood. So I don't know if I'm taking this.
Amen. Amen.
No, you bring a good point. I think that especially like we can separate Christianity out of this. And if something is being opposed, that means there's something good that people don't want it to come out. And if God is using the Hebrew here in America to make a difference or to make his kingdom known, obviously there will be opposition. I think in the Bible there's one, I can't remember his name, but he was sent by somebody else to go and cast the Israelites.
Yeah. Is that
Balaam? And
Mm-hmm.
he refused. But he told them like, but I know what you can do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And that alone, the people now suffer. So what I'm hearing is the same scenario playing here, even with the LGBTQ and all these other things. Hopefully I'm not going to be banned from saying these things, but that's the reality of it. And speaking of even population control, I'm glad you said it's actually happening globally, because currently we have a lot of people who have HIV positive in Africa. It is not because of the stereotypes or because they're having unprotected sex. It's because they were vaccine taken, and those vaccines had HIV in them, and these people knew it. So now they infected thousands of people.
Yes.
And so it's just sad to know that. Like people today are suffering because of somebody doing such a thing.
Right.
Yes. Eugenics is real, and this whole trying to decrease the population is a huge agenda that goes on in every aspect of society, and especially in the medical field. Many people go to the hospital and they don't come out. And especially during that COVID, there was a huge hit. And there were some things that we still don't even hear about, and how you can be anti-vaccine or pro-vaccine, it doesn't matter. But there were many people that died and many people that were injured by those vaccines. And in this book, she talks about the Tuskegee experiment, which is historically where the Black Americans were being experimented on and lied to with syphilis. And also she had mentioned that there was this doctor, I can't think of his name, I quoted him in my own book right now, who thought that Africans didn't feel pain. And so he performed surgeries on them without anesthetics. And so what I'm saying is that even though this stuff happened back then, this stuff is still going on undercover. Some people are afraid to go to hospitals. Some people will not seek medical attention because they do not feel safe.
Yes.
And as believers, we have to be prayed up And we have to know that when we're going in there, that we're putting ourselves under the power of our God and under the Most High, that He is going to be our great physician, and pray that He sends us people that are going to be honorable and that will do no harm. There are many people that are doing harm. And population, this whole population control, that's all a part of that eugenics. That's what it is they want to have less people. There's too many people.
Yeah, so I think even with mentioning, like when I go to my driver's license and they say, do you want to be an organ donor? Put it no. Because a lot of times, if I'm there and there's probably we can use some organs. And then I've also had friends in medical field who have said, like when women are in labor, sometimes they'll be in a lot of pain and Black women will ask for medication and they'll be like, oh, leave her alone, she's just whining, or like they'll just dismiss her. So you are so right, like these things are happening even today in 2025. It is very sad.
It's very sad. Black women, and even in child labor today, the statistics are high of injury to our women.
So do you think a lot of these cases, even with the agenda of depopulation, that is mostly targeting the Black community, or is, at least I never heard of viruses being put in vaccine in China or Japan? Maybe I haven't read enough in depth, but do you think we are more targeted?
Rukiya was saying that it's all people at the end of the day.
Yes.
Yes, the people that have our complexion, no doubt, we are definitely a target. But like she said, we're all in this pot now, okay? And you have the homosexual, you have the transgender, and you have all these other groups, and they try to put them all in the same pot. And so there are many people that hate these groups, these people groups, okay? And so there are people that commit hate crimes against people because they're they're homosexual, or because they're transgender. So there's all these type of crimes going on. So at the end of the day, I think that what Rukiya was saying about our enemy not being flesh and blood is that's the war that's going on. And that's what we have to be aware of as we're walking this earth as believers, is that that we are in a war, okay? And it is a war. We can't, if we could see, we probably couldn't handle the unseen. But yes, we are in a war, and everybody has to take a side. And so, yeah, here we are in this war.
And not to interrupt you, but to say that when we say this is like for all communities, this war is against all communities, we could be maybe in the front line of being targeted. But that doesn't mean like other groups are not necessarily targeted. It's maybe we've been in the front line. And so this should be an encouragement, like for all people to stand up, no matter your race or no matter your background, and stand against. Because at the end of the day, you have all these billionaires who have their agendas, and most likely if they think the population is a lot, maybe that they just want a continent of billionaire. I don't know, a world of billionaire, I don't know.
And that's exactly why Yeshua came. He came to destroy the works of the evil one. He came to reconcile us back to the Father because of our rebellion and our disobedience. And those of us who choose to follow him, then we co-labor with him to do that too. And so that's where we stand in the war. And we are on the front line. If you're a believer, no matter what ethnicity you are, you are on the front line.
Yeah. Do you think people are waking up into a lot of the things that are happening and the agendas that are playing in the background? Or people are still...
That's a really good question.
naive?
I do feel like people are waking up, because there's this, I don't know, maybe because I'm feeling this pull, that I feel like everyone is feeling this pull. But I do feel as a whole, people around, because when you look on social media, people saying some things and you like, wow, I didn't expect that to come from you. But I do believe that God is opening eyes and causing people to see, because yes, this is a war, but I feel as a people of brown and Black people, we have been put on the front line, and others can see, wow, they still surviving. After all that you have gone through, you still surviving. People are still saying, I want what she has, or I want what he has. And you see that happening because as God's people, we've always had that affinity that people would look to us and be like, yeah. So when people can see that we can survive such an ordeal that we have gone through from generation to generation, and now we have young people now who are coming on the scene and now born into knowing that, yes, I'm Hebrew, born into knowing, yes, I am a child of God, and being able to now pour into them and equip them for it to go forward. Because this is what Yah has spoken in his word, that we are to teach our children so they can teach their children. And now because yes, we have a lot of ignorance around us, but we were all ignorant at some point, and we're still growing so we can have more knowledge, because who imparts knowledge and wisdom to us? It is the Most High. So the more we seek him, the more we'll get that. But I do feel like there's an awakening that's transpiring.
Yes, I do agree with you. I think there's an awakening. I have seen a special on TikTok. It's like a campaign, especially when President Trump came into office. And the campaign was Black and brown people don't go to the streets, because the idea is they want you to go to the streets and protest so they can get an opportunity in their life. And I was like, wow, like people are waking up, And then you have also other people, when you have Black and brown people protesting, they hijack the movement and take advantage of it. And so there is definitely an awakening that is happening, which is good. Therefore, in your beliefs, what direction should people be going if the Black History Month has to continue to be celebrated? What adjustments should we make? Because most likely it's not going to stop and people will continue celebrating. Is there a way we can take an advantage of that month, maybe to educate people? Or how do you guys think, which direction is the best one to take?
I feel like there's a lot of potential in it to keep it going. But at some point, we always relabel things. Like even when you look at the name, we came from being Negroes to Black and then African Americans.
Yeah.
We're the only people who cannot even figure out what we're going to be called. But just in Black history, there's that opportunity to teach people like who you really are. Because I think people are aware that we've been lied to for a long time. So it wouldn't be that very hard to say, okay, so now that you've been lied to, how about looking into this about who you really are? Because I feel like giving somebody that identity to stand up on, because that's the struggle that's within us. As people who are Black and brown living in this country, the struggle is that, okay, we know a lot of us say, oh, I'm from Africa, but where? So you still have that yearning and that burning in you to have an identity. Who am I? So when you teach your children that this is who you are, you're Hebrew. You don't have to go clinging to whatever you think it is or whatever you think where you're from, but to truly know that you were singled out and brought here. You were singled out and brought to this country because everybody was against the Hebrews.
Yes.
When that's written in the words. But yeah, I think that would be a good platform for us to grow and know who we are.
I think to add.
Yeah, I agree with most of what she's saying, but I still kind of lean towards more not focusing on our natural ethnicity. We're Black, yes. We're whatever we want to be, you know what I'm saying, as far as whatever, Negro, whatever. But I still think at the end of the day that for me, I have not taken my DNA to know. So in the natural, I don't really know where I'm from. And so I know my sister is convinced that we are Hebrews, and I have other sisters that are convinced that we are Hebrew. And like I said, I know that there is a part of me that knows that I am Israel, whether I am grafted in or adopted in, I'm in. Okay. Yeah. So I am a part of the tribe. You guys say, so I do know that. But I feel as when it comes to Black history, I feel like what we can do with Black history is, and this may sound weird, but I feel like it is a good time to expose the lies. And it is a good time to expose the enemy, because we're still finding out more and more every day, things that we don't. I just learned something today that I didn't even learn. And so many things that's out here that we have no idea about, that have been covered up. And it shows us, okay, and we were talking about having a remnant, about this country, America, okay. Martin Luther King said that America were the greatest purveyors of violence on the face of the earth. That this country is under the influence of Satan, okay, and they have yielded and they have bowed down to what they would have called Baal back then. Not all. We do have a remnant.
Right.
But you know what? It also says in Acts that the Most High decided where everyone was going to be, where everybody was going to live, and everything. He decided that all beforehand. And what he wants us to do, more than anything, is to seek him.
Yes.
Is to seek him first.
Yeah.
And so we have opportunities, I think, during Black History Month to do that as well, to expose the wickedness, to expose things. And I feel that way about some of the holidays we had mentioned too. We had talked about the pagan holidays.
Yes.
Yeah, we're really close. You know, the thing, you can be close and you can be in agreement on the main things, but some things we don't always see eye to eye on. But you know what? It's okay.
Yeah, it's
because
okay.
Yes.
we see that on the main thing. You
Yeah,
know what I'm saying?
yeah,
We're on the main
yeah.
thing. And one of the things that I think is very important that I want to talk about right now, because we're in that season, is that we're coming to Passover.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Yes.
And so this is another example of where the corrupted Christianity, which is not the way that was for the first Christians, okay, is that Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus Christ himself, celebrated the Passover.
That's right.
Okay?
Yeah.
The first day of the Passover, if I remember correctly, I think the first day is when he initiated the Lord's Supper and when he initiated that this is the new covenant. Okay? And so if we're going to follow him, shouldn't we be observing Passover?
Absolutely.
I know I want to do what he did and what the apostles did. And I think when it comes back to as far as our whole identity, that it's that we were born, the Most High put us in these bodies and he chose our ethnicity. He chose the shade we were going to be and everything. But at the end of the day, we know that no matter if we are Hebrew by our DNA physically, we still know that everybody else were able to come in, the Gentiles.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I do struggle with that because they were telling me that I was a Gentile, but
That's why I
I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, but anyway, so we are all invited
Yes.
to the table. We're all invited to the table.
That's right.
We are invited, no matter
Absolutely.
what shade you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of God.
Yes.
That is the beauty of God. He says that he made a way for everybody. Yes, he put his people on the scene to show the world who he is. To us. He made a way for everybody.
Yes.
He opened the doors. He said for the widows, for the sojourners, that for everybody to come and just know that he is the king. And we recognize him as the king, then he has a whole new thing for us.
That's right. And the thing
new
about it is,
Jerusalem.
this is why, and this is a good point to make this. It's when I've heard of people that they work really close together, and they don't agree on every little thing, or they discuss things, but then they come back together. But this is how he said that they would know who we are. By our love. One for another. That we love each other.
That's right.
Amen.
And that's how they know who we
That's how
are.
they
They will
know,
know we are his by our love.
One for another.
Yeah.
It also is every tribe and nation, and I believe it also says color will be represented in heaven.
Yes.
Amen.
Yes.
So
We sing that song.
yeah, so it's the beauty. I think it's the diversity of the creation too. But with not to bring you guys back when we talk about being Hebrew or the chosen people, and how a lot of things have been corrupted over the years and over the centuries. I've heard people say that, especially recently, there's couple of people that I've been listening to, and they mentioned that Mount Kenya is Mount Zion, and I don't know how true that is, but they explain why they think Mount Kenya is Mount Zion. And part of it is because they say a lot of the people from the north, like even the kingdoms of Egypt, Ethiopia, used to come down all the way to Mount Zion, which is Mount Kenya, to do the worship there, or when they want to do a major celebration of some sort. And so there's that significance. And even in there was a question, what is so special in Kenya that people, a lot of these other nations outside, they are so much interested. Even the UN is moving the quarters there. And then all the other branches of UN, like UNICEF, they are moving to Kenya. And they are saying that of trying to cement their demonic altars in Kenya because there's some sort of revival that is supposed to happen, and it's supposed to, apparently it's prophesied that it will start in Kenya. I don't know. And so they're trying to cement that. So there's something about that land. Maybe it's something you guys can look more into, and also look more into as well.
Yes, that's interesting.
But there's that claim. And so when I hear you guys say that we are the Hebrew, yeah, I may not have the backup knowledge, but I want to believe it because there's so much things that have been corrupted and the truth has been so much distorted. So the right people may never know who they truly are. And if you don't know who you are, you cannot fully live to your potential and make the impact that our God wants us to make here on earth.
Yeah.
Wow.
Amen.
Amen. Yes. Yeah, it's when these topics come up, I think there's a lot of skepticism. At the same time, I look at the Bible, King James. So far, it's one of the most trusted versions of the Bible. But this was also written by a king who is named after a king, and who he's probably had his personal agenda. So do we know if he probably took some things out of the real scriptures? And so it becomes, interesting to think about these things. Even the other day, I was thinking that I'm going to start probably look into the Ethiopian Bible, because it seems like it's one of the oldest original Bibles. And some of the books that were taken out of the Bible, it contains those books.
Yeah. I do tend to read the Bibles that have been taken out. The book of Jasher, the Apocryphas.
Enoch.
Yeah, Enoch. Yeah, because they give more of a meaty detail of.
Yes.
And I look at the story of Isaac and his wife Rachel, and how that time when she really wanted a child and she went to her husband. In the Bible, it just says that he entreated her. But in the book of Jasher, it says that basically he was like, that's your problem. That's not mine. But being the woman that she is, she didn't say blame or anything. She just said, though that may be, but still entreat me, pray for me, stand up for me. And he did. He took her to the place where his father was going to crucify him. And they prayed. And we know the story that followed.
Yeah.
She got 2 nations.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love reading those books because they add to what we already have. And when we read the Bible, even if King James decided to take some things out, the Holy Spirit is really the one who teaches us.
Absolutely.
So we can trust and believe on that. Yeah.
Absolutely. So there's a great deal of work definitely to basically to shift the course of history into people knowing actually who truly they are, instead of being manipulated and getting in a way that is not the right way. So for you guys who are born here in America, like when you are raising your babies, your kids, in school they are taught something different, and that's a lot of times probably contrary to what you believe in. How do you handle that process, and or when they have questions?
We actually had our own little history class. We did not rely on them. I didn't learn anything about history in school other than we had to write reports on somebody we chose, whether it was E.D. Du Bois or somebody like that. But we taught them about the history in the U.S. and the history in Kenya. So the Mau Mau was a big thing we talked about. And also like with the Nat Turner and different people that made a big difference. We taught them that because we felt it was necessary. Because a lot of people, they were not going to hear about that.
I'm a firm believer that we are our children's first teacher. And my parents never relied on the American public schools to teach us what they wanted us to know. And their main lesson to us was the way. And they taught us as much as they could too. And we, like I said, we were really deprived though, like I said, of a lot. I would teach my kids what I knew, and that's about what it was. But as far as leaning and looking to the American public schools, that was something that we just really didn't do. We sent them there for the core to help us, to supplement us. That's what they're supposed to be, a supplement.
Yes.
They're not supposed to be their primary teachers. So that was always at the forefront with me, with my children, and my parents with us, is that we are your first teachers.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I know that's a little bit more personal because I don't know how you guys raise your babies, but thanks for sharing. So we talked a lot about what has happened in history, right? And there's this book, people can see it, Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. I haven't read it, but you have read it. There's a conversation, you said there's generational trauma that exists. What is the process of healing? How do we bring that to an end? Because I believe everything, trauma can come to an end, but something has to be done about it.
We can fight in the natural all we can. I think that the answer is going to come in the spirit. I think that not by might, not by power, but his spirit. I think at the end of the day, I think that there's measures of healing that we may get in the natural, but I think that the ultimate healing is going to have to be the healing of the soul, which is going to come from the Most High in Yeshua. So that's what I think. I don't think that we can stop it in the natural.
No.
But I think in the spirit, that's why I continue to say that we are in that war. And many of the people that suffer from post-traumatic slave syndrome, I believe that most of us has it to a degree, but many of them, it's still so bad that they're like prisoners of this war that we're in. The alcoholism, the mental illness, just the addictions, just so much that happens within us. And I know you have mentioned, and I'm talking about right now within the Black community, is that about the stereotypes. Okay. And some of the stereotypes, and which is why Carter Woodson started the Black History too, was that we were inferior. That our ancestors were inferior, that we were lazy, that we were dumb. And yet we were making all these inventions and all these things. They were stealing them from us. I was just looking at some of my notes in a report that I had done about Mark Dean. Have you ever heard of Mark Dean?
Back then, no.
Okay. Mark Dean is the invisible Black man that even before Bill Gates and anybody else, this guy has, I don't know how many patents on the PC. He is like the initiator of the PC. Now, I'm not really technical, but you know what? I think I have it. And so let me see if I can say it so I won't say it wrong. But anyway, he's only 67 years old, and he worked at IBM. And I think I have that note on him because I had did a report on him when I was in seminary, teaching my Dutch brothers and sisters, about some of the invisibility. Tells you about just so many information. Look him up, because this is a Black man that has been invisible and that you don't hear anything about. Okay, Mark Dean, he is the architect of gigahertz.
Wow.
Gigahertz. He is the architect prior to Bill Gates and Michael Dell. A Black man.
Wow.
Look him up. See, and this is the type of things that I'm always trying to teach my students that I work with and my own children. Just try to teach them as I learn what I know. I'm saying so many of this stuff has been hidden from us and covered that we have to share the knowledge. It's just that the Europeans stole so much from us, our ancestors, and we did not get credited for it.
No, and they benefited big time. So you
this is just a list of
some of the inventions.
Just so many of them. You might have never.
Automatic cut-off switch, automatic fishing device. If I can jump, there's curtain support, road support, clothes dryer, casket lowering device, biscuit cutter, bicycle frame.
That's not all of them.
Gas mask, lemon squeezer, pencil sharpener, guitar. Oh, I love guitar. Wow. If it was not for a Black man,
that
probably
was us.
Yes. Wow.
We were playing the guitar first.
Yes.
Yes. Because we were making them.
Refrigerator, shampoo, headrest, street sweeper. Which one is that?
Is it the sweeper or the broom?
Oh,
or is it the broom, or is it a vacuum cleaner?
I think those are the ones like they ride on the city.
Oh, okay, maybe that is.
With the trucks, and then they have
The sweepers that you go.
Even the wrench, and that has been used so many times. We use it all the time. Everything.
Right.
Wow.
Exactly. But it's just so many things.
So many.
As I said, that's not even listed. That's just some.
This is just even like a summary of it. The crazy thing, even when I was doing my engineering, I don't remember studying any single person of Black or brown in any of those books. With all the invention that I studied, nothing. And There was no. I doubt it.
They like to erase us.
Yes.
That's been the whole thing that they've been doing.
This did not even start this started a long time ago because you look at even during colonization of Africa, they took so much artifacts to Europe.
Oh, yes.
And even up to today, they're displayed in European museums. And they are not ashamed enough to say, you know what, these are not ours, we need to take them back. And then when you talk about the considering black people as primitive.
Yeah, and yes. Geniuses.
Yeah, geniuses. The writing that we write was discovered by Africans, which are black and brown people. Head of technology, invention, started in Africa. And I've also been called unintelligent at some point.
That's a stereotype.
And it was the first time to hear it. I was so mad.
Yeah.
I was like so frustrated. I was like, how can you have given the audacity to call somebody not intelligent? It's crazy.
I do think this country tend to want to keep people like dumbed down, ignorant, because when you go outside of the country, you see it's just so many things to see that like, really, was I thinking like that? When people outside of the country aren't really thinking that way. People outside of the country see this place different than how we see outside. And I think because of the propaganda we get, the media we get, it's so limited.
Yes.
Whereas when you go out, I can get news from everywhere. I can get news from BBC is not a big thing here, whereas it's a big thing in other countries.
Yeah.
Though we can get it here, it's just not something that, just give me CBS, just give me NBC.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's so much. People are really into knowing what's happening, whereas we're just not interested in the financial thing. We're not interested in Wall Street but it's like, we have to know. We have to know these things. It's not pushed. It's not something that, even like in school, you see our schools, the schools do not equip our children for going out and getting jobs. Well, not getting jobs, but for knowing how to financially plan, knowing how to buy a house, knowing how to save, and none of that. There's no offering. If it is, it's just, you could take this class, by the way, as a pickup. But these should be like main classes to say, this is how you buy a home. These are the things that you're running to. But you would think that our school system would be teaching
those things, but no.
Our school system trains our children to be workers. And yes, so we come out financially illiterate. I also think that we should be taught military science, personally. Students should know how to handle weapons and how to protect themselves. And that maybe if you have ROTC, you might get that. But if you're going to have a school, it should be well-rounded. Financial literacy. Military science should be required.
Especially since there's so much weapons around, which was like one of the surprising things when I came to America. It's how much accessible weapons are.
But yet, they're not teaching that. But you get some groups of people that are teaching their kids that. They're taking them out and they're showing them how to handle those weapons. So I
think it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do. Yeah, the last thing, one of the things I just mentioned, when walking the streets of Nairobi and before coming here, I had never thought about race. I had never thought about race at all. It just was crazy how much when I got here, how conscious I became about who I am and how I look like, and where I can go and where I can't go, or if I do, how I should behave. It was a whole different experience. And then it's just felt like weight on my shoulders. It's like, why does it have to be like this?
Like culture shock, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've known, I've talked to most people that I know, we say that being in America and being born in America with our complexion, we always think about race. And if for some reason something happens or something goes awry or we're being mistreated, we usually think that's the reason why. Automatically,
yeah.
Yeah, you just can't separate from it.
It's there.
Yeah. Just to wrap up, there's one incident that I posted a video that I There were families that were protesting that their baby
Oh, yes.
got abused in a school. And when I posted, one of the comments was, because the grandmother of the baby said, if it was a Black person who had done that act, the school would have been now closed and that person would have been so much investigated. But it seems very frustrating for them that nothing had been done, or seemed to be, even no matter how much they tried to seek help, nothing was really happening. And the person commented, I had sympathy for this lady until she brought the race card.
So we can't even talk about
Yes.
it. We can't even.
Facts.
I mean, it's in
Truth.
your face. So it's not like you can say, "Oh, it's just in your." In this
It
country, in this country, you cannot avoid it.
Yeah.
Because of what has been built upon.
Yeah.
You can't separate the two. It's just there in your face. But what can happen is you can start to see it from God's eye rather
Yes.
than just from society point
Yeah.
of view. Yeah, but still, there's no way you cannot see.
There's no way, yes. And I like one of the people who responded and said, if she's speaking the truth, which is the truth is, yes, most likely if it was a Black, brown person who have done it, even if it's just speculations, who knows where they could be right now.
Right.
Yeah. So it's not like if these things don't happen, they happen. And the lady was, in fact, I was looking at the school requirement when there's any claim of an abuse. And it seems like it doesn't matter if it's speculation, it has to be investigated. It has to be, and especially when it involves a child, it has to be investigated. So I feel really for that family that they had even to protest, to try to force
And follow through.
Yes, yes. And even today, I even don't know if it has happened, even after them protesting. Anyway, great conversation.
Yes.
As we wrap up, is there anything you burning that you want to say? I want to leave here without getting this out.
Yeah, I did want to talk about the gap and some of the issues that we have between the Black American and the African American, the immigrant that comes in, and that there's just a great divide, and that we just need to do better with that. We need to do better with that.
That's a good point. Actually, I wondered, at some point I was thinking I probably should have something to do about how we Africans who move into America, how we should integrate better, and even because we get classified all together, brown or Black a lot of times. But I think a lot of time we ride on and we take advantage of the fight you guys have fought for years. And I don't know if we appreciate the kind of work your ancestors have actually put in. Where do you see the divide?
I didn't really realize it until I was in college. And I had a really good friend from Nigeria, and we were really close in college. But there would be some immigrant Africans, and I had an experience with one, where it was like I was dealing with a racist Dutch white person in the way that they treated me as a Black American.
Yeah.
And that's something that we used to discuss. We discussed this in seminary. And in seminary, some of the Africans, and especially one brother from Liberia, he had expressed one time that he felt that it was the European and the Dutch that had a lot to do with our disconnect with each other. And that many people that come here, even the Hispanic or whatever, but especially the African that comes to America, are already influenced and persuaded that they shouldn't be connecting.
I think maybe the answer I can give you is I do agree there's some sort of like a doctrine that is being propagated on Africans before we get here. A lot of it happens in the movies. A lot of it is actually passed in the movies because a lot of times you look in the movies that they get made, like it's like Black person always like the criminal or the
Yes.
drug dealer, the one who shoots people. That's what it's so passed on through the movies and social media in general. And if there's a country that is really good with propaganda, it's America.
Oh, yes.
It owns all the channels of communication. Look at today, Facebook, major, is
Right.
American. Instagram is American. X or Twitter. Right? Those are one of the major
Right.
social media. Now, you look at CNN, you have Fox, all these other big broadcasting stations.
Yeah.
They're passing that message. And so if you control the communication part of it, you can influence a lot of people in the direction that you want.
I think too, when televisions first came out, they were called programs.
Yeah.
And
programming,
this is the whole ideology behind it.
Yes.
You program the people.
Yes.
So you can get them
Absolutely.
to think
Yeah.
like how you want us to think.
Yeah.
So
I never thought about it that way,
Yeah.
but that's so true.
That is
Yeah,
exactly
that's-
what is happening. That is exactly what's going on with this generation right now.
Yeah.
They are programmed and they need to be deprogrammed.
I think and I had a discussion with another person in one of these podcasts, his name is Shege, and I told him, right now we are in a point whereby United States is starting even to lose some of the percentage of controlling the media. Like now you have TikTok that is controlled by the Chinese. And sometimes there are information that you can get in TikTok that you never get in any other social media. And so when you have this diversity of the information coming in from different countries, maybe the different agenda, sometimes in the midst of it, you're able to see things that were restricted. There's an advantage to some extent, and I have a lot of hope. Now that America doesn't necessarily control every social media, now sometimes we can see America for what America is. We can see China for what China is. We can see Africa for what Africa is. I had an interaction with one lady who was born in America, one of the cultural classes. And in our conversation, I will never go to Africa. And I was like, what? And she was my friend. And after talking to her, she was speaking from what in the TVs. Kids who are with tattered clothes, people with no food, with no water, like that are falling apart. They never show that we have a skyscraper, we have swimming pool, we have poor neighborhoods, but we also have rich places. Same way I've come to America, I've seen homeless people, and we have street children in Kenya. Like both societies struggle in one way, but so that was propagated. Actually, I think it's even two-way. We are being misinformed for a long time in Africa. And also there's an element of African Americans here, Africans, or black, brown people of American origin also being misinformed about the Africans. And so when we migrated to America, then we have these views. And guess what? It cements the division, which is ultimately what they want.
Yes, exactly.
Ultimately what they want. And right now we have to say, look, especially if you're a believer and I'm a unbeliever,
that's where it has to stop.
This is nonsense. You are brother and sister in Christ. That's what I want to see as Christ will see any other person. Yeah.
Amen.
So definitely like the solution could be just rooted in our spiritual journey. So we are all one.
Yes. Amen.
Yeah. Rukiya, do you have anything else? I know she mentioned and bringing that up. Do you have any issue that you said, I want to...
No, other than the fact that I was very impressed when I went to Kenya and having that experience of watching television and seeing everybody on there look like me.
Yes.
I so appreciated that.
Wow.
On the commercials, even the shows it was just, I'm like, this is beautiful.
Amazing.
This is beautiful. So I thoroughly enjoyed that. I saw people running shops, running their own business, and everybody looked like me. So I really appreciated it. In the affluent areas, who was living there? People that look like me. And I'm like, wow, I could live here. And I was just so thoroughly impressed by that because though we have that here, it's few in number. It's few in number, but for a whole country to be the government, from the government all the way down to the very layperson, it was people that look like me. So I really enjoyed that.
That's good, yeah. I do know there's a brother that he has a huge YouTube channel. I can't remember his name, but he organizes trips for people of African, brown people and black people of America. We go to the motherland, as he calls it, and just visit. And that brother is, I'll find his channel. Maybe maybe you guys already maybe following. But they do such a good job of actually showing brown and black people in America actually are not the real face of Africa. And actually also organizing trips. People go there, experience it, to Ghana, sometimes to Kenya, all these other places. And I think I feel to a degree, I would say, as much as the people in America here, you feel you are being fought against, even as in Africa, we feel the same because there's just so much war against us as Africans. And so as you as American Africans, Hebrews, and again, there got to be an agenda. And I have to say that agenda is antichrist.
Yes, absolutely.
Ultimately, it may come in any form of disguise, but probably that's what it is. But we have to keep the faith.
Yes.
I think the God that we believe in, the God that we worship, He knows, or He got all the cards in His hands.
Yeah.
And the enemy can play his tricks, but I think his time is limited.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I just want to say too, we were talking, I know I had mentioned that we were in a war, but we have to already know that we win. We won.
Yes.
We fight from victory.
Mm.
We have the victory.
I think we'll conclude it here.
Well,
I
thank you.
really enjoyed having this conversation, having you guys here. Thank you for carrying the conversation. I won't say the expert in American Africans history or Black history, as they call it. You guys treated me with grace, so thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And to our subscribers, I ask you also, don't forget to subscribe. Try to grow the channel. And if you enjoy this conversation, please comment on the comment section and also subscribe. I believe, Regina, you have a YouTube channel.
Yes, I have a YouTube channel.
Do you mind mentioning so people can queue out?
Yeah, it's just Regina Ruth Riley.
Regina Ruth Riley.
ReginaRuthRiley.
Do you want people to follow?
Sure, come check me out over there.
Yes, just good content. And Rukiya, do you have a channel? Yeah.
I do not.
Yeah, okay. That's totally okay. Yes. Yeah, I've known these two ladies. They're amazing. This is not exposing you guys. Regina, she's part of the worship team. We play music together. And I know Rukiya is a prayer warrior. I like the support when you come early and join in the prayers. So you guys are always an encouragement. And for people like us who we have our mothers far away that we haven't seen like in 8 years, you guys are our mothers. And we always appreciate when you put a smile on our face, say something encouraging. And you just being there, sometimes even not say anything, just your presence. We're able to look up to you guys. So thank you for carrying the banner of Christ with no shame, because that's what I see from you guys. But I see you singing, and I have to give credit to the Black and brown communities of America, because even when I've gone to their churches, if it's come to dancing, singing, for the ones that I've gone, they do sing and dance.
Yes.
Like David.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So
We do.
yeah, so it's a beautiful thing. But anyway, yeah, thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Good, and yeah, it's good night.
Yep. Shalom.